Hi, friends. This is Joe, and this is episode number 200 of the Dekahedron RPG podcast. So excited. And today I am joined with James. Hi, James.
Hello, Joe.
James is with me because James was with me in episode one. He's been with me on all the milestones. So I always like to invite him back when we have another one. Truth be told, although this is episode number 200 and the last one was 199, this is actually the 271st episode because there's some I don't number, like when we do RPG a day or OSR October. I do a whole bunch of episodes and those don't get numbers. So this is actually the 271st episode that's gone out. Um, Yay. I lost my notes. There they are. There we go. We are talking about, to celebrate the 200th episode, we are talking about the Holmes edition of D&D. This one. James has his own copy.
And this one.
James actually has two copies. Is one of them the original from the one that you got for Christmas?
Yes. And the other one, you won't believe this, 50 cents at a yard sale.
Nice. How long ago?
Oh, probably 10 years ago at least.
Yeah, it's that thing where, although 10 years ago, that's a very good price. But anyway, the reason I chose the Holmes edition and the reason I asked James that question was because way back in the Christmas of 1977, James got that box for Christmas. And that was my introduction to D&D. And I didn't really know James at that point. Did I know you at all, or did I just not know you well?
Probably not well. We were both in the ROTC at the time.
No, we weren't.
No?
You were. I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Because we were at Junior High East. And Junior
Okay.
High East, yeah. And so we had a mutual friend, though, a friend named Don. Hey, you watching, Don? Hi. Probably not. But James James would be a mad pirate, and he would go home at night and he would type up pages from the book, and he would bring the pages into school and give them to Don. Don would bring them home and give them to his father. His father would bring them to work and photocopy them. And then Don would bring those into school and pass one out to me. I don't know if anybody else was getting any. And eventually Don's dad said, this is mad crazy. Just have James give me the book. And James did that. And so my first copy of D&D was a pirated copy off of Don's father's work photocopier, but it came from James. And that's how James and I eventually met.
Big no-no nowadays.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that nowadays. But now the days I'm not 13 years old and I can actually afford to go buy a copy. So, and TSR more than got their money back from me. Yeah, because I bought AD&D, all those books, and Gamma World, and Top Secret, and Star Frontiers. Anyway, so that's why we were talking about Holmes D&D, because it was the version that introduced me to the hobby, and yeah. So the way we normally do things here is whenever I can talk. Whenever we review a product, we talk about 3 good things, 3 not so good things, and then give an overall. I usually start off with the history of the product. I kind of did that with a personal history, but product-wise, D&D, the original white box version, was notoriously difficult to understand. And a neurologist, a little brain surgeon in California, wrote to TSR and said, "Hey, I would like to write an introductory guide to teach people how to play." And TSR was like, "Well, that's cool, but we're not going to pay you." And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it anyway." And that was J. Eric Holmes. And he was also, in addition to being a brain surgeon, he was a fantasy author. He wrote some swords and sorceries books, which made Gygax feel that he was qualified. So that's where the Holmes edition came from. It's like the only edition that you can't buy on drive-through in PDF form. And I think maybe it's because they didn't really have that contract. It was kind of a handshake thing, and he never got paid. But I don't know. The other weird thing about it, well, we'll talk about it when we get into the ups and downs. The other thing that was interesting about this edition is that it led to a lawsuit. It led to the famous lawsuit by Dave Arneson against TSR. Dave Arneson, as you may or may not know, created D&D, right, with his gaming group up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then they showed it to Gygax, and Gygax said, hey, I think we could publish this. So Gygax and Arneson worked together, and they ironed out what D&D was. And by work together, Gygax did most of the writing, and Arneson came up with ideas, some of which Gygax shot down. Anyway, but part of the contract was that Arneson was guaranteed so much percentage of every copy of D&D. So when they came out with this basic set, if you look on the back, not only does it have Dungeons and Dragons in it, but it came with a module and Monsters and Treasures supplement. And TSR was paying him the royalties for the D&D book, but not for the other stuff in it. And Arneson was saying, well, the box says D&D right on the cover, so I should get a percentage for the whole box. And they were like, but you had nothing to do with those other products. He says, it says D&D, I should be getting a percentage of the whole box. And so that's where the lawsuit went. Interesting enough, this is the first one that says basic set on it, which leads people to say there's a version called Basic D&D. There is not. The game was called Dungeons and Dragons. The set was the basic set. That's just a soapbox of mine. Anyway, hi friends. That was weird. We were recording and I got these error messages and we kept recording for a bit and then it says it didn't record. And so I went back, I reviewed it, and we're going to pick up with what we like and we don't like. And the first thing are likes. I've been doing a lot of talking, James. Go ahead and give us your first like.
What I liked was the simplicity of the older games. A younger me, no. But today, I don't need all the fancy rules and extra pluses to do whatever. It +2 because I'm outside, +1 because the opponent's arms is shorter, so forth and so on. It's just getting so complicated nowadays. That was my first like.
I agree with you completely. In fact, if you remember, I think it was our very first episode. We did, should every weapon have D6 damage or should they be different, right? Because in this version, it's all D6. And I said, yeah, that's good. That's all you need. It's simple. And you're arguing for the more complex side. So welcome to the dark side. But yeah, I agree. When you first got the game, when I first started reading it, I was like, this is the most complex game ever. That must make what makes it so great. And so I kept looking for more and more complexity. And I just got there before you. It was some point in the 80s where I said, no, it's not the complexity, it's the role play. And there should just be enough. Oddly enough, I went to GURPS, which has a reputation for being complex, but you don't need to use all those rules in GURPS. You just use the ones you want. And if you use basic GURPS, it's a very simplistic system. But yeah, I agree with you completely on that one. The first thing I like, and it's kind of related, right? Is that in only 50 pages, we get this framework for how to play. It's not a lot of art. It's not a lot of text. 50 pages, and really only about 45 of those are rules. One piece of art that has stuck with me for all these years is that picture of Stone Skull Mountain. Page 39, James. And and I'm not a huge fan of art in games. I feel too many publishers put it there willy-nilly. Perfect. That has stayed with me all these years. This mountaintop with the skull on top. That's the entrance to the dungeon. Oh, it's so awesome. But yeah, so many publishers just fill the book with art and make it a picture book instead of a rule book, and I hate that. This did it right. There's a very little art, and what art is in there supports the game. It doesn't overwhelm it. That was my number one. What's your number two, James?
Well, my number two this time is going to be the alignment chart. And I have already pulled it up. I don't believe many dungeon masters used it. I don't ever remember anyone that went against their alignment that got punished for it. But I think the most
I
Mhm.
finish.
The most restrictive was the Paladin, and and the rest of them really to stick to your alignment was not there. It just didn't add to the game in my mind.
Yeah, my experience differs with yours on that, but it's interesting that you mentioned alignment because this has the 5-point alignment chart. This is the only edition that had that chart by default. It came out in a newsletter for original D&D, but it never made it to the basic books, the books. And after this edition, AD&D went to the 9-point alignment chart, and basic D&D went back to the 3 alignments. So this is the only edition that has the 5 alignments. Anyway, my number two is that first level magic users can create scrolls. I just think that's awesome. This is the only edition where that's a thing too. Normally you have to wait till like 6th level or something to be able to create magic items. But in this one, they said starting at first level costs 1 week of time per spell level and 100 gold pieces per spell level. And I think that's great. It's a time sink. It forces characters just do stuff in the downtime. Um, it's a gold sink because magic users don't spend their money on more armor and more weapons and stuff like that. So this is a place where magic users can spend their money, and um, it takes away that thing where your magic user can only cast that one spell in that dungeon and then he's done. This makes him feel more magical. I've even toyed with the idea where this is my only magic system where there are no memorized spells. It's only the scrolls you carry. But yeah, I really like that about this edition. That was my number two.
Well, let me ask you a question. When could you get a spell book and the scrolls? And I'm not remembering it this way, but I believe you probably memorized it better than I do. That it would be a first level magic user. It makes more sense for them to be able to do a scroll to create their own magic book in time. Does that make
I think
sense?
so too. That's why I love this. But no, in the old days, in all the other editions, in order to have a scroll that you could cast from, and then it disappears, it was considered a magic item, and so you had to be of a sufficient level where you could enchant magic items, which, like I said, I think was 6th. I am not sure though.
The
Huh?
scroll, you write it and you do the spell, and that scroll just disappears.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
I was going to say that's even going back to the way that spells were originally worked in Blackmore, back when D&D wasn't named D&D yet. Dave Arneson's world, you would find components in the dungeons, and you combine them to make the spell. And once you cast a spell, they were gone. Uh, and so it's kind of going back to that. Anyway, you're number three.
My number three was the simplicity of the weapons and armor. It was very simple. You weren't trying to figure out. Okay, I have greaves, I have arm guards, I have chest plate. It was just I have light armor, I have heavy armor, and so forth.
No, I like that. I agree with you completely. If you remember, like the first or second episode we ever did was should weapons do variable damage or should they all do 1d6? And I was on the side of 1d6 because it's simpler and it's easier. And if you're interested in our arguments, go back to that episode. But yeah, welcome to the side of simplicity. I agree with you completely. My number 3 is, I have two. I cheated on this one because I was really torn. Um, and one is from the 12-year-old me who was getting these photocopied pages from Don's father, and one is from me who is not 12 anymore. uh, so the 12-year-old me says sex appeal. When you read the description of charisma, it's on the very first page of rules in the second column. It says charisma indicates a character's, physical appearance, personality, and sex appeal. And 12-year-old me was like, it says sex. And I was like, wow, how complicated is this game where sex appeal is part of the equation? And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So that was the 12-year-old me. The me who is not 12, I'm going to put on my glasses for this because I want to read. It's this little excerpt. It's in the very beginning of the book. It says, the dungeon master designs the dungeons and makes careful maps on graph paper. The players do not know where anything is located in the dungeons until the game begins and they enter the first passage or room. They create their own map as they explore. While only paper and pencil need to be used, it is possible for the characters of each player to be represented by miniature lead figures. This is just a style of play that I feel is going away. Um, when you watch any of the actual plays, which I do very seldom, but when you uh, see the things online for like Roll20 and everything, it all indicates that you're going to have a map that you reveal to the players, not that the players have to make their own. And that's a level of player skill that's being taken away. When you have to make your own map, that is your exploration of the dungeon. If it's all right there in front of you, no. So this level of play, this style of play, I think was great. And yeah, that is my number 3, number 1, however we're counting them, CA uh, thing that I like about this game.
Well, I will say, back when we were making the maps, it was it was one of those that if we didn't listen well or we misunderstood, we would entirely go off track of when we finished our maps. It was no longer like what you had in your map. Remember
Yep,
those episodes?
I do. And it's great. I do actually, these days, I do a hybrid approach. I have each room mapped. I'll show you the map of the room, but I don't show you how it connects to the rest. It's just, this is the entrance that you walked in. This is what it looks like. And that way, I don't have to say there's 50 feet on that side, but you can do that. Hallway, same thing. I just say, 50-foot hallway. But I don't connect them up. Mm-mm.
But nowadays, I will agree with you. There are so many new things out there. They actually have actual tables designed for gaming where they have a TV embedded and you actually have the maps showing on the TV and then you move your fingers
Yep.
around.
Yep. And then how did you, okay, you're running away from a troll. You're coming to an intersection, left or right. Well, they just look at it and they say, oh, no. Oh, you're stopping to look at a map? No. Anyway. Anyway, things we don't like. Your first thing that you do not like, sir.
I understand you said that someone tried to put this in a more understandable format. I still find it as confusing as hell. And me knowing what I know now, I can understand it and jump around. But back then, all of us were having problems trying to figure out how to read this book and understand it because it was just not understandable in a simple word I could think of.
I'm not going to address that right now. If you've listened to this show before, you know what that means. What I will say is that my number one thing that I dislike is the reader is referred to the more complete rules in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Um, this is limited to third level, and that's before anyone, even a fighter, gets their first bonus or anything, right? Um, and that means if you want to place the fighters again, I mean the characters against maybe like a fourth level fighter, you can't because you don't have the information for them, or a fourth level magic user or whatever. You don't have the information, and this game is very incomplete because they made that decision that this was just made to get you into AD&D. So that is my number one thing that I hate about this game. Your number two, sir.
I'm going to go along the same line that the levels were limited. I'm trying to find the page that actually had what the maximum levels were. I believe there was
It's 3.
third and fourth.
It's third level.
Third level. So yeah, it was just a beginner, and I hate to say it. Nowadays, and even back then, I hated starting at a first or second level. And I've been to a couple of games where we just started at third level, so we didn't have to do the turnaround routine. I get hit, I have to go back to town to get healed and wait 2 days, and then come back and start over again. So
Okay. So I think that was my number one. What's your number two? Or was that your number two? No,
that was my number two. That was
Okay.
my number two.
Oh yeah, you were agreeing. Okay, my number two. My number two is your number one. This game, its goal was to make it simple for beginners. It missed that goal completely. This book is poorly organized, not as poorly organized as original D&D, but it's poorly organized. It doesn't do what it set out to do. Throughout the book, there's references to this will give you a +2 to morale or a -2 to morale. There are no rules anywhere that mention anything about morale other than those bonuses to morale. So what do you do with that? At least in OD&D, it didn't have that either, but you knew kind of that you were supposed to go look at what's that other game that they had? Chainmail. You knew that you were supposed to look at chainmail for the morale rules, and this gives you no such indication. It just talks about morale in all these places, but never talks about how to use morale, what morale is, just these various bonuses and things to it. Another example are the combat tables. Like the first line on the combat table for monsters says up to 1+1. Then the next one says 1+1 to it says up to 1-1. And then the next one says 1-1 to 1, I think. Okay, so if you're 1-1, do you use that top chart or do you use that second line? Because they both say, what is it non-inclusive? Is it only inclusive to the beginning? And if you come up with that rule, then a couple layers down where you talk about third level, one goes 2, 3, and the other it doesn't work. It breaks. There's no way to read it. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I had another line in my notes about the AD&D combat tables being 2 years out, but I think that really went for the next line. So that was my number two, which was your number one. What's your number three?
Well, let me find it. My number three, and it was not more for players, but I have read through it, is the let me get the proper name. Treasure table. It's like you're gonna waste 10 minutes rolling dice, and then the DM has to figure out, oh, you got 100 gold, you got a gem, you got a magical weapon. In my mind, I like the newer format where the most DMs have this is what the treasure is in the room prior to even running the game.
Well, you could still do that using those treasure types.
Right, but they they just seem. Remember when we used to do it at the game? It just seemed to slow it down. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I Yeah, but that's more of a style of play rather than the addition thing. So I'm not going to agree with you on that. But hey, that's okay. We don't have to agree. That's why we have two people. Um, my last thing, my number three, which is closely related to my number two. This is supposed to be an introduction for beginners. There is no example of play until page 39. Remember, I said there's only 45 pages of rules? Not until page 39 does it start telling you, oh, you pretend to be this person. and you talk to the GM, and the GM talks back to you, and you have this conversation, and it shows you how to play. And when I was a kid reading this book, I was so confused. I remember going to school and asking Don, I don't get what does the board look like? And he's like, there is no board. And I'm like, and it wasn't until I got to that example play that I was like, oh, okay, this is a sit down and talk game, which of course didn't exist back then, right? This was the first sit down and talk game. So by waiting until page 30, it should have been page 1. This is what the game is. Bam. And it wasn't. And that is my number 3 dislike.
I am going to throw one trivia thing out there. Do you remember when you didn't have dice? There's your little dice that you had to pull out of a hat.
So what happened there is that D&D was getting so successful that their supplier ran out of dice.
Oh, that's why they did that.
Yeah, and if you look in there, if the set is complete, there should be a coupon to send to TSR to get dice. Of course, the previous owner might have already done that.
Let me check. This one, I don't think so. And guess what we have?
Is that the coupon?
Yes.
See? I wonder if you sent it in to Watsy, if they'll send you the dice.
I'm going to say no. But I do remember some of these having dice already in them, but they were shitty dice too. You had to use a crayon to color them in.
Actually, I like the crayon part, but they were very soft plastic and they would get very rounded edges. Yeah. All right. We're running out of time because we only have an hour's worth of recording time on this, and we burned 15 before. So, overall assessment. What do you think about the game?
I've always loved the game, but there's always times that I had problems, especially in the beginning, until I met a couple of people who actually understood the game and could teach me what I was missing in orders and stuff.
All right. But pick a side. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
The game, thumbs up. It made it easier, but the product needed more work. So I'll say thumbs up, but more.
All right. I too hedge my bets. I am giving it an honorary thumbs up for introducing me to this hobby that I have been with since 1977. Well, I say 77. You got it for Christmas 77. By the time you came back to school, it was 78. So from 1978 until today, however many years that is, 58, I guess. No, that can't be right. I don't know. I'm not going to do the math. So big thumbs up there. For today, though, as a product, for today in 2026, thumbs down. As much as I love it, as much as it's not playable. Only 3 levels, although we have this great voicemail from Jason where he says that it's great for doing the Hobbit, going only up to 3rd level. In fact, let's listen to it right now.
Hey, Jason here. Just wanted to call you about your 200th episode. Congratulations. As far as Holmes goes, I never had Holmes back in the day. I do have a copy now. And it's interesting. There was a post on one of the old school forums. I forget which one. It was Natives and Knights or Dragonfoot or which one. But anyway, it talked about using Tunnels and Trolls. It talked about using Holmes as the Hobbit. So the idea that just levels 1 to 3, the power level, scales appropriately for adventuring in the world of the Hobbit novel. Not the rest of Lord of the Rings, not the rest of that stuff, just the world as presented in the Hobbit, full stop. That 1 to 3 levels works really well for that. And that's something I've always thought was interesting, but I've never gotten around to messing with it. Anyhow, congratulations on 200, and take care.
Thanks for that, Jason. Even for doing just the Hobbit, I'm not sure I agree, because are you saying that Gandalf is a third level magic user? I think he's higher than that. But yeah, other than that, thanks for the call. Thanks for congratulating us on 200 episodes. James, any comments to Jason?
Thank you for your time for getting that message to us, Jason. Hopefully you're doing well, and let's hear from you again.
So anyway, where was I going with all this? Oh yeah, I was giving it a thumbs down. It just I don't think it's playable. Gygax just said, let's just do this to get people to buy AD&D, and I think that was a mistake. We won't get into all the legalities where it turned out later anyway. But basic D&D, no such thing, people. But D&D became its own very profitable product line once they got away from this edition, when they got into the BX edition and then BECME. But this was, I don't want to say I will say it. It's a low point of the game. I was going to say, because it's not really any worse than the white box, but it is, because the white box was at least complete, and things weren't cut off at third level. At least in the later editions, basic went up to fifth level, but yeah, in the Alston era. But anyway, it wasn't cut off at third level, and it didn't refer you to the advanced book for everything. So yeah, this was the worst of the original editions, in my opinion. And even for that day and period, even though I would say 12-year-old me gave it a thumbs up, I think Tunnels and Trolls, had I known about it, would have been a better game for that day. Playability wise, there's a lot that D&D does for you, pre-made monsters, pre-made magic items, which I think might give D&D an edge. But yeah, that is my overall thought.
Thank you for that, Joe.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on D&D, on the Holmes edition D&D before we leave? I love the cover.
What? You love a picture?
I love the. So cover art is a place where I'm okay with cover art. And again, I say, and I go over the top when I say it for comedy effect, that all art is bad, but I'm not opposed to art that supports the game. I'm not opposed to all the illustrations and monster manual that shows you what the monsters look like. That's useful. That's good. But upstairs I have this copy of the 4th edition of Big Eye Small Mouth, and you come to like a full page spread, and it interrupts the text. And the picture doesn't even have anything to do with the text that was being talked about. It's just someone was like, hey, we have this pretty manga picture. Let's put it in there. It's a waste. I hate that. So it's not that I hate art. I hate art for the sake of art. I hate people who judge a game based on the art, because that has nothing to do with how it plays at the table. But that could be a whole nother episode. Actually, it was Joe Hates Art. It's in the back catalog somewhere. So yeah, but I love the cover. Sutherland did it, and that was just so evocative when we were kids. And I remember taking my photocopied cover of this and actually painting over it with paint to make it a color. And I had the whole thing in a 3-ring binder.
And do you still have that picture someplace?
No, I've moved far too many times for that to have survived. And at some point, I was like, a photocopy, I have the real thing, right? Probably at some point, I was like, basic, I have advanced. So no.
Well, Joe, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, as always, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking about the old game with you, and I'm sure you'll be back for some other episode. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary, 3-year anniversary, whatever, in a few months. So maybe you'll be back for that one.
Oh, thank you. I'm always available. Maybe we should talk again, and you have a good day.
You have a good day too, and everyone else, thanks for watching and you're listening. And until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.
Bye.